Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to my Fallout 4 Mod Spotlight series, where today we are having a look at the M36 Kantrael Pattern Lasrifle mod, which is being made by user MattESP89. And what this glorious little piece of work looks to add into the game is the M36 Lasrifle from Warhammer 40k. And oh my, I've been having a whole lot of fun with this mod. As I gotta admit, I'm not the biggest fan of Warhammer 40k, more of just kind of a passing interest in the franchise, but ever since I discovered it, my favorite faction has always been the Imperial Guard. So having one of their Lasrifles now is just so entertaining to me. So let's jump on down here and have a look at what we do get with the most basic version of the M36 Kantrael Pattern Lasrifle, which will do just a mere 12 energy damage with a fusion cell, with a firing rate of 83, range of 71, accuracy of 75, and a weight of 6.2. All in all, pretty nice there. And as you can see, it is a gorgeously built gun. It certainly does look the part for any Lasrifle I've ever seen from 40k. It is just magnificent. A big, bulky energy gun that shoots a piddly little beam. Now, as for the damage on this thing, it is pretty darn low in its most basic configuration, but with all the various modifications that you can put onto this thing, you can make it pretty darn impressive with some fairly decent damage. Now, before we do get into all the modifications, I should mention that you are going to need a mod requirement to get this thing to function, and that is going to be the AER-15 Modern Laser Assault Rifle mod. This borrows a lot of modifications and other things from that particular mod for this to function properly, so you will require that. Now, with that installed, to get your hands on one of these lovely weapons is pretty simple. Just need to go to any chemistry station in the world, head on down to the M36 Kantrael Lasrifle category, where you can build this, assuming you have rank 2 in gun nut, rank 2 in science, and also do have some aluminum, circuitry, crystal, fiber optics, plastic, screws, and steel lying around, so not too bad. Now, when looking at the stats on this thing, I did mention the most basic version rather than standard, like I usually say, and that's because no matter how you build this, which is only through the chemistry station here, it's never going to be the same gun twice. It will always throw on a random assortment of modifications for the weapon, so there is technically no standard version, and you could end up with just any assortment of things attached to your gun. Now, with that in mind, let's actually head on over to the weapon workbench and talk about those different modifications, starting with the emitter. Now, the most basic one is the Pattern Mark 1 here. Very basic, early model, and reminding you to not neglect the weapon's machine spirit. Good advice there. And we go all the way up to the Mark 4, either Mod 0, which is just 27 base damage, or Mod 1, which is that same damage, but also adding the ability to light your enemy on fire. And that's always fun and entertaining. Good times. Now, after that, we've got two different barrels here, either the standard pattern Mark 1 or the long last with wrap, which is pretty cool, increasing the damage, range, and accuracy for a bit of a loss at fire rate, and losing out on another modification later on, which we'll talk about when we get to it. Now, in the grip, sadly, we only have the one singular thing, but there may be, I don't know if there'll be another grip mod, but the mod page did say that the mod maker's looking to add more things here, so we may very well get some more of this in the future. Now, scope-wise, there is no iron sight for this thing. It's borrowing different scopes from that laser assault rifle mod. So I've got things like the Tridricon, the Aimpoint, EOTech, and ACOG in here for you to use. Now, then in the magazine, we either have the standard pattern size 5 power cell or a drum cell for just a lot more shooting. Great for when you switch this thing to fully automatic. Now, speaking of fire select, well, we've either got semi-automatic here or full auto, which of course will drastically lower the damage, but massively increase the fire rate, as you would expect. Now, moving down the list, we've got the wavelength, which is a pretty cool thing here. We can go from a 400 wavelength to 700. Now, 700 seems to be the one that it goes to most often when I've built these at the chemistry station, so I guess, and actually, yeah, standard drain cell right there. But changing the wavelength to a shorter wavelength will actually lower the fire rate, so it's not going to be as quick, but increase the damage, and also increase the amount of energy drained from your fusion cell. So with the 700, that's awesome with fully auto, because it's basically a minigun at that point. But for more of a sniping character, yeah, you might want to have the 400 nanometer wavelength there. That probably would be the good way to go. And you can go anywhere in between, which is pretty darn neat. Now, we then do have two rails, either a left rail or right rail, and no matter which one you go with, your only options here are either none, a green laser pointer, or a laser pointer, but that's turned off, and that's it. Now, sadly, no flashlights or anything there, just the laser pointer. We also have a stock category with just a singular stock pattern. Then after that, we've got a grip type where we have either a default or Maxwell grip. Now, these don't seem to change any stats or even anything aesthetic on the gun, so there's that. Then after the grip type, we've got the beam modifier, where we can either have the standard muzzle or a beam amplifier and suppressor. Now, this is an important thing here, because remember earlier when I said you went with the long last? Yeah, this, if you go and turn on the barrel and have the long last with wrap, you cannot select anything in this beam modifier category. They are not compatible with one another. You need the standard barrel for actually attaching barrel attachments to it effectively, so that is definitely something to keep in mind. And then finally we have the skin category, which again, only one option in here, but I think I actually did see specifically on the mod page, I might be wrong on this and misremembering, that the mod makers wanting to make some more in here. But yeah, definitely, hopefully we do get to see some more things in these categories as time moves on. So let's go take a look at this thing in action, and then also talk about a fun little extra feature we got. So let's take a look at our gun here. Wonderful, and take some shots. Now, as you can see on the shooting on this thing, it has effectively no recoil, and is extremely accurate, as you would expect, frankly, from a laser rifle. I've always thought it was weird in Fallout that laser weapons had freaking recoil, but hey, it's a video game, that's just how their guns work. Now, as for the shooting on this, I've been shooting pretty slow. The fire rate on this thing is actually pretty impressive, so for these last 29 rounds, let's just fire as quick as possible. Basically, as quick as I can click my mouse button is how fast it will fire. Now, that is with the 700 wavelength on here. Going for a lower wavelength will drastically lower that, but of course, again, improve damage. But all in all, it is just a very usable, fun gun. Now, you may have noticed, and let's actually return to the chemistry station earlier, there was something else in that M36 category in here, and that is the Lasgun Master Control. Now, this is an aid item that you can add to a hotkey, and it will allow you to change on the fly your fire mode, beam intensity, and if you have any special scope things, can even change that, which is pretty cool. Now, I've of course already got them. Now you have no requirements for this, so it's real easy to build. And if we go back over the fire range here, and go to where I have that hotkeyed, there we go, the Lasgun Master Control, we get this UI. And if we go to the first one, Fire Mode Toggle, it'll switch us from semi-automatic to fully automatic. And let her rip! Yeah, that was all 50 of those rounds, and we went from aiming like right there, roughly, to right there. That's how little kick this thing has, and it basically is a rifle equivalent of a minigun, and that is magnificent. But again, that's not all we have the option here. We can, on the fly, change that wavelength beam intensity. So if we click that, we're on the 700 right now, but yeah, we can go over to the 400, and now we got the magenta blade, and it definitely does fire a lot more slowly, but honestly, not too much. Granted, I am also still on fully automatic if I just hold that down. But yes, it's pretty cool that we do have the ability to change that up on the fly. And of course, the final option on there is to change a scope. So let's actually grab one of my modified versions here real quick. That does have a changeable scope. And you will have to drop any other versions of the gun you have in your inventory. You can only have, for the scope options, or actually any of the las gun control options to take, you are going to only be able to have one of them in your inventory. But you can see on this scope, we've got a really cool, neat scope here. But if I go to here and toggle that, well, there we go. It takes off the magnifier, so we've just got like a reflex scope on this thing now, which is pretty cool. And I had this one as more of a sniper configuration with the semi-automatic magenta 400 nanometer one there. But yeah, if we switch back up between the two, you know, we can either go between sniping or close support. It's pretty darn cool. Now, let's actually go grab my other modified version here, too, where we've got, and just take a quick look at that one, the barrel magazine on there was 73 rounds, and fire. Now, that, of course, is with the magenta, which does consume more power. So if we do... Oh, boy, I'm going to have to drop this one, too. Hold on. There we go. Now change it up, and if we go back to beam intensity, go to the 700, boom, there you go. We can now fire 100 rounds rather than 73. So that's just going to show you the difference between the different energy consumption in that regard. But let's switch it back to the good one. I really do like that 400. Very nice there. And I'm going to grab this, and let's do our usual enemy of a Deathclaw. Which means I'm gonna... Oh, nope, I actually don't have it. Didn't set it earlier, but I do have it on copy-paste. Lovely. Run away! Now I've got this thing on fully automatic with the magenta. And he is getting caught on fire, and we've got 73 rounds basically as a light machine gun taking this guy out. And it is magnificent. Now, of course, it's still... I mean, even with the magenta on there, the damage on this thing is 39 with the fully automatic. So let's switch over to this one, which is the highest I was able to get the damage without any perks that affect the weaponry, is to 65. So let's go to that and do some sniping on him. It'd help if I actually hit. Let's go down the stairs so he comes back a little bit here. There we go. There we go. Yes, that's it. Get burned! And yeah, that's already doing a lot more damage. Oh boy, back up the ladder. Back up the ladder. Alright, there we go, and he is almost dead with our glorious magenta burning beam on our wonderful Imperial Guard las gun. Boy, I'm shooting about as well as an Imperial Guard right now. And fire! There we go, he's dead. And yeah, it's just a fun, wonderful little gun, and if you are a fan of the, you know, Warhammer 40k series, and especially like me, the Imperial Guard, this is just a great, fun little weapon to play around with here in the Commonwealth. And plus, who doesn't love more energy weapons? So if you would like to take a look at this mod for yourself, which I'd certainly recommend you go and do, you can have a look at the link in the description, as per usual. But that, my friends, is going to be it for this one today. Hopefully you all have enjoyed. You do come back for next, but until that time, thank you for watching. And as always, have a good one.